How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Yes, it's still the same me. I've just had a little trim. It was about time, I think, that I did have that trim. I feel better for it. And I thought today we'd look at the ABK trial a little bit with some of the stuff that came out during the trial. We are awaiting the final verdict and we might get it next week, but it's unlikely for the next 2 weeks before we actually hear anything. But there were some really interesting stuff, so thank you so much for the continued support you do show for me on this channel. If you do enjoy this content, do consider subscribing. It really means the world to me. Don't forget to leave that like, and let's get on with the video. So I found it a number of tweets when I clicked on Judge Corley, and there was a lot of really important things here that I just wanted to go over. Like, for example, this one. Judge Corley said, how big is the market of the people that care so much that they would switch and buy an Xbox they wouldn't otherwise buy? And the FTC said, and this is really amusing, right? It's not about just switching. The harm to the PlayStation person, and they have COD, Call of Duty, and there's some new character, and that's not on Xbox. Essentially what he's saying here is, it's not about the players switching. Even if the games are on the same platform, like the current platforms, Xbox might have a cool skin that's not available on PlayStation, and that could make them switch. Now, the FTC clearly is probably filled with the biggest dumpster fire idiots that I can probably think of, because Sony are doing this right now with Call of Duty, with exclusive skins, operators, you name it, and they're saying that think of the harm that might come to a PlayStation person if Xbox has an exclusive skin. Like, tell me you're not supporting PlayStation without telling me you're supporting PlayStation. Over here we have the FTC lawyer. There will be exclusivity that benefits Xbox and not the PlayStation. Again, referring to the above statement. Judge Corley says, Sony just acquired another publisher and they make a lot of stuff exclusive. So what about them? And they were like, rapidly moving on. Would you be... And then the judge asked, would we be here if Sony had a deal with Microsoft? Judge Corley wants to know what the harm to consumers is if the merger goes ahead, and whether we'd be here if Sony had a deal with Microsoft for Call of Duty. Now, the FTC says if the merger goes forward, and if you believe that Microsoft has the incentive to advantage its own platform, there will be content, there will be timing issues, there will be exclusivity that benefits Xbox and not the PlayStation, which is exactly what's happening right now in the reverse order, by the way. You know, there is exclusive content. Don't forget about that game mode that people try to downplay. It was a 1-year exclusive game mode that Sony had over Xbox. It still counts. Judge Corley said, aren't we just talking about Call of Duty? Sony just acquired another publisher, and they make a lot of exclusive stuff exclusive. You've told me this has really always been about Call of Duty. How's that going to drive? If Sony had a deal with Microsoft for Call of Duty, would we be here? I think we would have still had an investigation. That's good. But here on a preliminary injunction, no, we wouldn't be here. We would be here because of concerns about the other markets. Outside the console market, okay, that's fair enough. Referring to cloud gaming. Now over here you can see Judge Corley asks how our subscription services a different market, saying they seem just like another way to pay for games. It's exactly still the same. Now that's a very, very valid point, because in my opinion, a subscription service or just buying the game for flat out $70 or going out and playing it on the cloud is the same thing. It's just a different way of playing the same game. They are part of the same market. Judge Corley sounds annoyed at this point. The FTC is bringing nothing to the table, and with every new witness it becomes more clear that the FTC has no right to be here. I mean, it's pretty damning from everything we have seen so far that the FTC really has no clue what they are talking about. And I think it was another one I saw down here that really summed it up. It was what I called the mic drop moment when I released my video. It was the FTC versus Microsoft hearing. Judge Corley asks for testimony under oath that future versions of COD will be made available for PlayStation, and Phil Spencer replies, absolutely, will raise my hand. If Sony had a deal with Microsoft for Call of Duty, would we be here? Asks Judge Corley. The FTC is still struggling here. Another lawyer has had to step up and try to explain, as Judge Corley wants to know how this will harm consumers. She's all about Call of Duty. Now, at this point, the FTC was trying to throw Diablo into the mix. They were trying to throw Overwatch, and the Judge Corley didn't want to have anything to do with those. All she cared about was Call of Duty, because that was the primary focus, and they couldn't prove console harm, and that was the key thing here. No console harm could be proved. Also, don't forget, Jim Ryan's deposition was really important, right? Because Jim Ryan said, I don't like, when they asked him about Starfield exclusivity, he said, I don't like it, but it's not anti-competitive. And then they asked him about another game that was from Bethesda, and he said, I don't like it or have to like it, but it's not anti-competitive. And that's really important, because considering the FTC has been protecting Sony, even though in the trial they finally said we're not here to protect Sony, they 100% were here to protect Sony. Jim Ryan himself turned around and basically said, hey buddy, I don't give a shit. I know exclusives are a thing, they're part of the industry, they will always happen. It's not anti-competitive, because if I say it's anti-competitive to Microsoft, it's going to be anti-competitive when I do it. So I'm saying that it's not anti-competitive. Now the FTC asks Spencer if I can make the same commitment, re-COD, under oath with respect to cloud. And the judge then says, I don't need that. I'm going to cut off your questioning. Basically saying, that's enough. You don't really need to, continue your questioning. He's already promised Call of Duty on the PlayStation 5. He doesn't need to go any further. Your whole basis for your argument is, will Microsoft have Call of Duty on your precious PS5 box? And he answered that question. Now moving the goalposts and saying, will it be on the cloud? That is unacceptable. That is not acceptable. Moving the goalposts and asking about Diablo, asking about Overwatch, asking about World of Warcraft and other Activision Blizzard games is not acceptable. The whole purpose of this trial was regarding was regarding Call of Duty. So to then turn around and try to gain a leg up by throwing random stuff at the witnesses and at the judge is not acceptable. Updated assessment. Judge Corley's doubts about the equitable part strongly suggest that the FTC is not going to get the kill a vertical merger here based on speculation. The court may agree with parts of the cloud theory, but the FTC has to overcome multiple hurdles, which is correct. Partial foreclosure already happening in Sony's exclusive deals. That is the case, and the FTC is completely denying those, and it was sad to see them denying those. And when they asked, don't Sony do this as well? Partial foreclosure on games, and the FTC just refused to answer. They didn't give anything, because if they did, the whole case comes crumbling down. Judge Corley voices the FTC concerned that this industry changes all the time, it's dynamic and morpheus, and then referred to Hogwarts Legacy, saying, it was one of the biggest games this year with over 850 million in sales in such a short span of time, and that was without the PS4 and the Xbox One, which is also, I think it's already out by now. So they should have exceeded 1 billion in sales quite easily. It actually, in theory, it should have outsold Call of Duty this year. Hogwarts Legacy was the biggest game earlier this year. The game industry is dynamic, we just don't know. You can't say Call of Duty is the biggest game when games like Hogwarts Legacy can come out and just completely shock the industry and be the biggest selling game. You just don't know. Why is it just about Call of Duty? Wouldn't that incentivize somebody to make a yearly Call of Duty competitor? That's another good question. Why is no one making a competitor? SOCOM is a really good one. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy to make a competitor. What I'm saying is someone should be trying. I mean, Call of Duty came about because Medal of Honor needed a competitor. And that's what gave birth to Call of Duty. It's not impossible. It just requires investment. And it looks like no one's willing, either on Microsoft or Sony, to even decide to try and challenge it. Without the deal, Nvidia wouldn't have a deal for Activision. And that's a key one. Even though the FTC is saying it would, and that Bobby Kotick will actually do it, he's repeatedly said that this isn't the market that he wants to go to. Maybe in 15-20 years, if the industry forces his hand to do it, that'll be different. But that's 15-20 years that gamers won't be having cloud games with Activision and Blizzard games on there. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. FTC versus Microsoft. Judge Corley asking the real questions on gamers' minds. Judge Corley wants to know about the 4 game that gamers call God of War, and wouldn't Call of Duty on Game Pass pressure Sony to put God of War Ragnarok on PlayStation Plus? I don't understand why Sony won't make its PlayStation Plus subscription better, asks Judge Corley. She wants to figure out this market and once, and blah blah blah. Basically, she was saying at the time, if Microsoft do this and has day and date games, and then makes their service better, doesn't that instigate and put pressure on Sony to make their services better and provide their consumers with a better option, better deals, better services? What you're doing essentially is being anti-competitive by preventing innovation from Sony to be better. You're preventing innovation to do better. What you're trying to do is protect the status quo, the market leader, and keep things exactly the way they are, because Sony is not in a position and is not prepared for cloud. And that's essentially what it is. The FTC was asking Phil Spencer to ship Call of Duty to the PlayStation no matter what the terms are. They were literally trying to say, if Sony refuses to pay, keep shipping Call of Duty for even $0. And Judge Corley basically cut them off, saying, not for $0, buddy. You are on crack. That ain't happening. Ain't happening at all. So it's quite interesting to see how, the FTC got absolutely ruined in many, many ways in this trial. But one thing that still prevails is the cloud aspect. She did turn around and give them credit on a few points within the cloud business, the cloud industry, and that actually gave rise to, a sliver of hope that they could, get that preliminary injunction. Now, is it likely that they're going to get a preliminary injunction based on what we witnessed in this trial? It's very unlikely. I'd probably say that there is a 90% or even a 95% chance Microsoft's going to win this. But that 5%, even if it was 1%, is enough to, have some doubt for us and everyone else about which way this debate's going to go. We saw with the CMA, which was a slam dunk, 100% guaranteed to go through, and then they shocked the world with the way they decided to block it. And we're not even talking about the insider trading that they were doing by telling people early on that they were going to reveal this so they could go and buy and sell shares to make a bit of money as well. Yeah, that's how scummy and sketchy the UK CMA is. That was actually proven as well. But yeah, it's really, really weird. On top of this, now I'm hearing PlayStation fans talking about PlayStation buying Square Enix. Now, obviously, this has been circulating for a while. So I put the question on Twitter about, well, should the FTC now scrutinize Sony in the same way they're scrutinizing Microsoft regarding putting all of Square Enix's games on cloud for GeForce Now? Because why not? And the response I got was, Sony isn't as big as Microsoft, so the FTC shouldn't be investigating them and this still should go through automatically. You what, mate? You what? What are you even talking about right now? Are you even for real? Like, come on. Like, that is like, what the hell are you talking about? But basically, the general consensus that I'm seeing from PlayStation fans right now is if they actually were to make a bid and buy Square Enix, and they were able to make all the Square Enix games exclusive to PlayStation and on the cloud service only for PlayStation, that is fair game, and they are perfectly happy with that, and they've got no quarrels with that at all. And I'm guessing the FTC wouldn't have a problem with that either. So it's a bit, you know, it's wrong that the way people are thinking it's okay for one and not the other just because of Microsoft's $1 trillion size. Really? The principle is the same. I mean, not for the FTC, because the FTC is in bed with Sony. But for the rest of the world and the onlookers, the principle's the same. But the double standards are real. It's okay for one, but not for the other. And that's generally been the story of this case and the story of pretty much Xbox versus PlayStation. It's okay for one side to do all the exclusives, it's okay for one side to get all the games, but when the other side tries to step in, oh my god, it's a bad thing altogether. Anyway folks, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, let's have that discussion, and I'll see you in the next one. One thing I did want to ask before I do go, for those of you that make it this far, do leave a hashtag made it to the end, but the news videos that I'm releasing currently that's not ABK related, what's your thoughts on those, and what other sorts of gaming news content would you like to see? Because I am looking around to see what else I can pick up, but yeah, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.